Hi guys, and welcome to LSBF TV. This is Level 2 Bookkeeping Controls. We are going to be discussing through each of the assessment tasks, giving you the confidence that you need to gain as many marks as possible. My name is Ridwana Uddin and I'm one of the AAT tutors here at LSBF. Our aim is to give students the confidence that they need to go away and succeed in any of the AAT assessments. We're going to be going through one task today, and this is going to be examining students on their understanding of the types of methods that customers, suppliers can deal with, and it'll be discussing the issue of errors on a trial balance. Now, students have understood the ways that a company can make payments or receive cash, but the examiner in the examiner's report has mentioned that students' weakness mainly lies with the understanding of the different types of errors and the impact on the trial balance. So allow me to go to our task there we go. This task has several different requirements and we're going to go through each of these requirements over today's period. We've got organisations use different payment methods. And part A is asking us to match each situation with the most appropriate payment method below. Draw a line from the situation to the payment method to indicate the correct answer. Okay, so we've got 4 marks, ladies and gentlemen, and you can see that we've got 4 boxes, and our task would be to drag and drop or match the situation to the payment method. So each situation will have one payment method and that will gain me 4 marks. Okay, right? So let's go through this one then. I'll go through it little bit by little bit just to make sure that you understand the different types of systems. We've got number 1. Making a payment via the internet to purchase office stationery. If you're going to be buying on the internet, which I'm sure everyone does these days, you're probably going to be making a payment through a plastic card, so either a debit card or a credit card. Now, if you're going to be buying office stationery, I'm assuming that the amount is not going to be too much and there's no really any use of a credit card here. I think the best answer would be a debit card. So looking at the payment method, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 methods. Standing order, cheque, a bank draft, a debit card, chaps, or cash. Okay? So from your studies, you should be able to understand the different types of method here. And you make sure that you understand which would be best suitable for a certain situation. And that's the examiner's testing us here. Can we match the situation to the payment method? If you're going to be buying goods online, especially things like immaterial things like office stationery, we can say that a debit card would be most suitable. So I'm going to grab a ruler and then point an arrow to show stationery to debit card. In the exam, you are going to be dealing with an actual software. So what you would do is click on the situation to the payment method and there will be an automatic line drawn to connect the two. And if you've changed your mind, then you unclick the box and that will take away the line. So make sure that before you sit the real assessment, you go onto the you go onto the AAT website and you go onto the sample assessments in the study support search bit of the AAT website. Okay, so the next one, making a non-automated low-value payment in person. Okay, so if you're going to be making a payment in person and that's of low value and that's also non-automated, so that's going to be something that you won't do regularly, you are going to be paying cash, I think. Paying cash is the best suitable method that we've got there. And then the next one will be to make a payment by post to a credit supplier. Okay, so if you're going to be sending something via post, I don't advise you to send your debit card or send some cash via post. that would be a very bad thing to do because it can get lost and then you're going to be upset because something's missing. The best way to pay a supplier by post will be via cheque. Okay, so I can match that situation to the payment method there. Now, a cheque is something that you can fill in. It will be the name of the payee, we've got the amount due, and then also a signature and the dates. So you are basically instructing the bank to take the money out of the bank balance, and then this could take around 3 to 6 days to clear. So if anything goes wrong, then it's very easy to call up the bank or contact the bank and say, can I cancel that cheque? Okay, so that will be the best suitable method if you're going to be sending something via post. And then we've got the final one, making regular payments of regular amounts to the same recipient. Okay, so if you're going to be making regular amounts and regular payments, then the best thing would be via a sort of bank transfer. And the best bank transfer that I can think of here would be a standing order. A standing order is when you are going to be instructing the bank that I would like you to take out £100 at the start of each month from my bank account and pay X. Okay? So a standing order is the best format of automated systems, but you've got another automatic system here called CHAPS. And a lot of students find the understanding of CHAPS very difficult. CHAPS stands for the Clearinghouse Automated Payment System. And this is suitable for when a company is making a high amount of transfer from one account to another account. An example that I can give you here is if you wish to buy property and you want to pay the solicitors. So you are going to be paying on the same day a very large amount from your account to the solicitor's account, and that could be a CHAPS payment. Now, once you have paid via CHAPS, you can't cancel it once the money has been received, and that's when you can adjust for something that you've done wrong. Okay, so that is part A of the question, 4 marks. Let's move on to part B of the question. Which two of the payment methods below will not, okay, that's a very important word here, will not reduce funds in the payer's bank balance on the date of payment, and you have to circle the relevant methods. So which two will not reduce the bank balance on the date of payment? Okay, well, I can see I've got 5 payment methods. Well, I know CHAPS is definitely not one of the answers, because CHAPS is where the money is going to be leaving the bank account on the very same day the instruction took place. Okay, so I'm looking for something that will not automatically reduce the balance on the bank account. And the best answer would be a cheque, because as described previously, a cheque will take around 3 to 6 days to clear, and therefore the money will not be leaving your bank account straight away. And another one will be a credit card. Okay, a credit card is a system of buy now, pay later. So if you want to buy something very expensive, let's say a 60-inch screen TV, but you don't have enough funds in your bank account at this point in time, you may wish to pay via the credit card. Now, the credit card will instruct the credit card merchant to pay the company for the TV, and then the merchant will send you a bill after 30 days in which you will have to pay the amounts due to them. But also a credit card company can charge you interest, and the interest amounts would mean that you'll have to pay a bit more for the actual price of the TV. Okay, so there you have it, guys. That is methods of payment that will not immediately reduce the amounts from your bank balance. A standing order will do so, because as soon as you go into your bank app on your smartphone, you can see, yes, this is the regular amount that I've instructed to leave the account at the start of every month, and a direct debit as well. As soon as your mobile phone bill is due, it could be a variable amount depending on the amount of 4G that you've used per month, let's say, and that again will leave on the very same day of each month. Okay, so that is part B of the question. Let us move on to part C, which is according to the examiner's results where students have shown the most weakness. And this task is all about understanding how errors will impact the balance shown on the trial balance. Okay. So, it is important to understand the effect of errors in a bookkeeping system. Show whether the errors below will cause an imbalance in the trial balance by ticking the correct box. Okay, so a trial balance is a table with two columns, a debit column and a credit column here. Now, as long as you have made a debit and a credit of the same amount, your trial balance will always balance, even if you've made a mistake. So, in your accounting studies, you should be able to identify which errors will cause a difference in the two balances and which will not. So, we've got 4 errors and we have to decide which one of them will cause an imbalance and which one will not. Okay, so let's go through each one by one. Number 1, a cash sale has been recorded in the sales and VAT control account only. A cash sale has been recorded in the sales account and the VAT control account, which means that the cash received has not been recorded in the bank account. Okay, so you've credited sales, you've credited VAT control, but you haven't acknowledged receipt of money in the bank, so you've forgotten to debit the bank account. Okay, so there is no corresponding debit entry to bank or cash. Okay, so if you've only entered the credit side but haven't entered anything on the debit side, it means that the credit side is going to be higher than the debit side on the trial balance, thereby causing an imbalance. So error number 1 will cause an imbalance in the trial balance. Okay. Number 2, the purchase of a new computer has been recorded in the office expenses account. All other entries were correct. Well, the purchase of a computer will be classed as a capital expense. Okay, this is a capital expense. But if you are going to be paying for office expenses, this can be classed as a revenue expense. These are the terms indicated in your accounting studies. So if you've bought a new computer, you should debit the computer equipment account. But what they've done by mistake is debit the office expenses account. So they have chosen the wrong account classification. If you've chosen the wrong account classification, it means that the debit will be debit to an account. It must have been debited to computer, but you've debited to office expenses. So you have debited one account, and all other entries were correct. So the corresponding credit entry has been dealt with correctly. So this is known as the error of principle. The error of principle is when you have chosen the wrong account classification, and this will not cause an imbalance in the trial balance because you have made a debit and a credit of the same amount. Okay. Number 3, a BACS payment to a credit supplier was debited to the bank account and credited to the purchases ledger control account. So a BACS payment, money leaving your account, and that was money paid to a supplier, was debited to the bank account. Hang on a minute. If you make a payment, surely you must credit the bank account to acknowledge that money has left the account. If you debit the bank account, this will increase the bank balance, and this is not what you want to do. So if you debit the bank account and credit the purchases ledger control account, it means you've swapped the double entries over. If you pay supplier some amounts of money, then it means you owe the supplier less. And to reduce your liability, you should debit the purchases ledger control account, not credit it. If you credit the account, it means you're increasing the amounts due to the supplier. So that makes me think that we have an error of reversal. Okay. This is known as the error of reversal, which means that you've debited an account and credited another account, the debits and credits are equal, your trial balance will still balance even though you've made the error of reversal. So this one will not cause an imbalance in the trial balance. Okay? So the examiner's report strongly emphasise that students are weak on understanding the different types of errors. Why not ask your tutor to help you understand which errors will cause an imbalance and which errors will not? Here at LSBF, we've got these videos that explain each error in detail, plus also giving you examples and applying them to assessments that could be examined in the real exam. We need to make sure that we get as many marks as possible in the bits that we find easy. When we go on to the bit more challenging areas, that's fine. I will try to get some marks here, but I need to know where my strengths and weaknesses are. I know my strength is on errors, so I can make sure confidently that I've answered this question and gained full marks. Okay, so back to the question here. Let me just scroll up. A cash payment of £56 for stationery has been recorded in the cash account as £65. All other entries were correct. So a cash payment of £56 has been recorded in the cash account as 65. Okay, so what you have done is debited office expenses, let's say, for £56, but the cash account, you credited cash, 65, did they say? Yes. Okay, that was a double entry that you recorded. You can see that you've swapped the two adjacent numbers over, so you have made a transposition error. A transposition error in this situation makes me think that the debit is lower than the credit, which means that when I go extract the trial balance eventually, the debit column and the credit column will not be equal because the credit entry was higher than the debit entry. So to answer this question here, this will cause an imbalance in the trial balance because your debits and credits are not equal. It's very important that students understand that as long as there is a debit and a credit of the same amount, your trial balance will always balance. Okay? So, the next part of this task is actually a follow-on from this bit, and here the examiner is testing you on your ability to know the names of the errors and the descriptions as well. So part D, it says show which one of the errors below is the error of principle. Okay? Which one of the errors below is an error of principle? Now I've kind of given this one away because you've got the 4 errors from the previous task, and then you have to just select which one is the error of principle. The error of principle is when you have chosen the wrong account classification. A new computer will be classified as an asset, but office expenses, no prizes for guessing here, these will be classified as expenses. So you've chosen the wrong account classification, which means that this one is the error of principle. But according to the examiner's report, many students mix up the error of principle to the error of commission. The error of commission is where you've chosen the correct account classification, but you've entered the transaction in the wrong account. An example would be, let's say I wish to pay for my rental expense for this period. So I should be debiting rent, crediting bank. But by mistake, I have debited office expenses. If I debit my office expenses, that is me debiting an expense account. But I should have debited rent, which is also an expense account. So I've chosen the correct account classification, but the wrong account. And that is an example of the error of commission. Okay? So students should practice identifying whether or not the errors will cause an imbalance of the trial balance, but you should also familiarise yourself of the names of the errors and the descriptions. The error of reversal, the error of commission, the error of principle, the error of omission, and we've got transposition error, so many types of error that you should be aware of. And these will have an impact or not on the balances on the trial balance. Okay, So that is part D of the question. Allow us to move on to the next bit, which is part E. The correction of errors in a bookkeeping system is recorded in the journal. Select one other transaction that is recorded in the journal. Now, everyone should understand the role the journal plays in the accounting system. The journal is a book of prime entry. Okay? The journal is a book of prime entry. But this book of prime entry will record non-routine transactions, and this task is testing your knowledge to identify which transactions will go to their relevant books of prime entry and which one will go to the journal. In your AAT studies, you would have learnt the formats of the main books of prime entry, how they are analysed in different columns, and you will identify the net figures, VAT amounts, the gross figures. The amounts that you analyse in each book of prime entry is essential because these amounts are going to be summarised and then transferred into the general ledger using double entry bookkeeping. But the individual amounts in each of the books of prime entry will then be transferred to either the purchases ledger, known as the payables ledger, or the sales ledger, which is known as accounts receivable or the receivables ledger. It's very important that you understand the role each books of prime entry play. And this here is an excellent way for me to describe where things would appear in the relevant book of prime entry. So, select one other transaction that is recorded in the journal. Reimbursement of petty cash. If you reimburse petty cash, it means you're trying to top up petty cash to the fixed float amount that you wish to start off with at the beginning of each period. So, you would have learnt from your studies that amounts to do with petty cash will be going into the petty cash book. And the petty cash book is a book of prime entry that is not the same as the journal. So number 1 is not the answer. Number 2, irrecoverable debts written off. An irrecoverable debt is also known as a bad debt, and this represents the amounts that we will not expect to receive from customers. And an irrecoverable debt is a non-regular transaction that will be put through to the journal. So we will need to enter the double entry, debit irrecoverable debts, credit the sales ledger control accounts. And this will not be put through to any of the main books of prime entry. So, as it's a non-regular transaction, it will be put through to the journal. Number 3, prompt payment discount received. If you receive a discount, this relates to purchases and the amounts due to suppliers. So, any prompt payment discounts received, this will be analysed in the cash payments book. There we go, the cash payments book. This amount that we pay the supplier is going to be the net amount after deducting the prompt payment discount. So as you are analysing the several columns in the cash payments book, you will have another column for discounts received. And finally, we've got interest received from the bank. If you receive interest from the bank, this is going to be money coming into the bank account, and therefore this is going to be analysed in the cash receipts book. And the cash receipts book is one of the main books of prime entry, which will show money coming into the entity, while the cash payments book is showing money leaving the entity, or the amount in the bank balance is going up, or the amount in the bank balance is going down. But don't forget that bank balance is treated separately and the cash balance is treated separately as well. So cash in hand is one column, whereas bank account balance is another column in either the cash receipts book and in the cash payments book. Okay? So, this is a task that we have completed, and it's very important that you make sure you answer the question. If you don't answer the question, then you're not showing the examiner that you have the confidence that you need to deserve as many marks as possible. Make sure that when you're answering homework questions or assessment task attempts, you have the notes open beside you. And if you can flick your eyes back to that relevant chapter, then you can remind yourself that, yes, this is the true accounting treatment. And if there are certain topics that you find quite difficult, it's important that you go back to your books and then redo the necessary questions. But it's also important that you keep a sort of relationship with your tutor. Your tutor is there to help you along the way, giving you the help, the confidence that you need to try and do such questions independently. And that's what you're going to do, guys. You are going to be answering these questions yourself. So use your tutor as much as possible, and this task here is an excellent way to understand the kind of requirements. They're not designated to one particular syllabus area. Many syllabus areas are tested on such tasks. Okay? So, allow me to summarize what we have learned in this session here. This task is very important for students to identify the different payment methods. We've got the credit cards, debit cards, CHAPS, bank transfer, standing order, so many ways that we can receive money or pay money. But also, it's very important that we understand the errors that will cause a difference between the trial balance and errors that do not cause a difference. We need to make sure that as we're going through the assessment, we carefully select which assessment task we can answer questions very quickly on, but some questions will be a bit more challenging and we can leave them till later, or you can do them first. You know exactly what kind of student you are, so you can analyse your strengths and your weaknesses. At the very end, you need to ensure that you understand that your task is to get as many marks as possible. So, thank you for joining me in this session, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope it's been educational and you can take that away and apply it to other homework questions that you're about to attempt. I wish you all the best with your studies, and we are going to be seeing each other again next session where we're going to do a very different task. Thanks very much, guys. Take care and bye-bye.